What if there's a place in our solar system where standing still could kill you, and the ground beneath your feet is literally being torn apart every second? That place exists, and it's called Io. At first glance, Io looks like just another moon orbiting Jupiter. But hidden behind that simple label is one of the most violent worlds ever discovered. A world covered in gigantic lakes of molten lava. A world where volcanic eruptions blast material hundreds of kilometers into space. And a world so unstable that even scientists struggle to predict what its surface will look like tomorrow. But here's the strange part. Getting to Io is almost as terrifying as surviving on it. Even when Jupiter is closest to Earth, it still sits nearly 588 million kilometers away. The fastest spacecraft ever sent there took over a year to arrive. And that spacecraft didn't have to carry humans, food, oxygen, or life support systems. A crewed mission? You'd be looking at years trapped inside a spacecraft with one destination, a moon that clearly does not want visitors. And that raises a disturbing question. If Io is so deadly, why is it considered one of the most fascinating places in the entire solar system? The answer begins before you even land. Because Io doesn't just orbit Jupiter. It's trapped by it. Every second, Jupiter's immense gravity stretches and squeezes the moon like a stress ball. The result is constant internal friction. That friction generates enormous heat beneath the surface. And that heat has nowhere to go. So it erupts. Again, and again, and again. What happens next changes everything. Because the real danger of Io isn't the lava. It's something almost invisible. Something surrounding the entire moon. And once you discover what it is, surviving 5 seconds on Io suddenly sounds impossible. Imagine finally arriving at Io after years of travel. You descend toward the surface. The volcanoes are erupting. Lava fountains are exploding into the sky. And somehow, that's not even the biggest threat. Because Io is orbiting inside Jupiter's magnetic field. And Jupiter's magnetic field is absolutely monstrous. In fact, it's so powerful that it constantly rips material straight off Io's surface. Every second, roughly a ton of particles are stripped away and thrown into space. Sounds bad enough, right? But here's where it gets weird. Those particles become trapped around Jupiter and transformed into an enormous ring of supercharged plasma. Scientists call it a plasma torus. Think of it as a giant donut-shaped cloud of radiation surrounding Io. And flying through it is like flying through a cosmic microwave. Suddenly, your heat-resistant suit becomes useless. Your oxygen supply doesn't matter. Your volcanic survival gear means nothing. Because radiation doesn't care how prepared you are. And this is where the story takes a shocking turn. Most people assume Io's volcanoes are the reason it's the most active volcanic world in the solar system. But that's only part of the truth. The real reason lies in a gravitational tug-of-war. Jupiter pulls Io one way. Europa pulls another. Ganymede pulls from somewhere else. The moon is constantly stretched and compressed by these competing forces. Imagine bending a paperclip back and forth millions of times. Eventually it heats up. Now imagine that happening to an entire moon. That endless squeezing generates unimaginable energy beneath Io's crust. Energy that powers hundreds of volcanoes simultaneously. And every eruption reshapes the landscape. Meaning the place you plan to land might not even exist anymore. But the most terrifying part is still ahead. Because once your boots touch the ground, the countdown begins. The moment you step onto Io, everything starts working against you. The temperature, the atmosphere, the radiation, even the ground itself. Some regions plunge to minus 130 degrees Celsius. Yet only a short distance away, volcanic hotspots can exceed 1,600 degrees Celsius. That's hotter than many industrial furnaces on Earth. But here's the strange part. Extreme heat isn't what kills you first. Io's atmosphere is mostly sulfur. And sulfur is not exactly friendly to human lungs. Without advanced life support systems, every breath becomes a problem. Then comes the radiation. The silent killer. The invisible threat surrounding the moon. Within seconds, dangerous exposure levels begin accumulating. Within moments, your body starts losing the ability to function normally. And that's when things change. Many experts believe an unprotected human would lose consciousness in less than a minute. Organs would begin shutting down. Survival would become impossible. All while volcanoes continue erupting across the horizon. It sounds like science fiction, except it's real. Right now, orbiting Jupiter, a place so hostile that surviving 5 seconds would already be an achievement. And yet, despite everything, scientists remain obsessed with Io. Why? Because hidden beneath its deadly surface is one of the greatest laboratories in the solar system. A world showing us what happens when gravity, heat, magnetism, and chaos collide. A world unlike anything else humanity has ever seen. But maybe the biggest mystery isn't why Io is so dangerous. Maybe it's why nature created a place this extreme in the first place. And if worlds like Io exist in our own solar system, what else might be waiting out there in the dark?